Are thumbnails really that important? I mean, if we think about it, right, a thumbnail is a picture that somebody sees. Do we need to spend that much time to create a picture that somebody's going to see on YouTube when really what we want them to do is click on the video? Well, the answer to that is very simple. It's a yes. And in this video, I'm going to explain why you want your thumbnail to be the very best thing that somebody can see so they will click your video. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to create the best thumbnails that you can create. So welcome into the studio, guys. My name is Ken. I am your content coach. And again, in this video, we're going to talk about thumbnails and why they are the most important part of your upload experience to YouTube. So thumbnails is something that since I started creating on YouTube, I have spent a lot of time working on, creating, evolving. Now, very important to know that even if you have something that's working for you now, don't be afraid to tweak thumbnails over time, follow trends, things like that. So again, thumbnails are very important. Why are they so important? So the big reason why thumbnails are so important is because of impressions. I'm going to talk about impressions in two different ways. I'm going to talk about the first impression, which is what the viewer is going to get when they see your thumbnail. And then I'm going to talk about YouTube's definition of the impressions analytic, which is a real analytic that you need to be concerned about. So first, let's talk about first impressions. YouTube is a visual platform. We know that because we're making videos. People watch those videos. And so the thumbnail is the first part of that. Being a visual platform, you want that thumbnail to stand out, to catch attention so that people will click that thumbnail and watch your video. Imagine a billboard, right? If there's an advertisement on a billboard as you're driving down, the road, the interstate, whatever, that billboard needs to be catchy. It has to catch your eye. Otherwise, you're not going to look at it. Same thing on YouTube. You want to get the viewer's attention so that they will want to click that thumbnail to see what this is all about. Now, the word impressions also has another meaning. This is an actual analytic in YouTube that you want to be concerned about, and here's why. Let's go to the actual definition of impressions according to the YouTube Academy. So impressions, once your video is published, YouTube starts surfacing it to relevant audiences based on their behavior on YouTube. When a viewer comes across a YouTube thumbnail on YouTube, it's called impressions. That is how many times your video thumbnails are shown on YouTube. Now, as far as what counts as an impression, that's shown here also. The thumbnail has to be shown for at least 1 second, and at least 50% has to be visible to viewers. An impression is counted right away if a viewer clicks on that thumbnail, so you want them to click on that thumbnail. So you can go through that, and you can see all their definitions. Very good resource to go through for a new YouTuber. So now that we know why thumbnails are so important, why you want to make sure that you have the best thumbnails that you can have, I'm going to give you 3 tips for creating the best thumbnails that you can create. And we're going to start with tip number 1, which is stick to a consistent thumbnail. Generally speaking, you want your thumbnails across your channel to be consistent. You want people to be able to see, as they're scrolling through YouTube, as they are skimming YouTube, you want them to see your thumbnail as it goes across. You want them to recognize that as being your thumbnail. So as you grow your audience, as people are watching more and more of your videos, your thumbnails are going to stand out to them as soon as they see it. They're going to know what your thumbnails look like. Now, this is very easy to do. You don't have to be a graphics designer or spend a ton of time once you have kind of a templated thumbnail. Very easy to do. So what I use, my choice for creating thumbnails is PicMonkey. I do all of my graphics in PicMonkey. I'll put a link down in the description for PicMonkey so you can check that out. But PicMonkey is very easy to use. I will probably do a future video kind of demonstrating PicMonkey a little bit, but check out PicMonkey. You can do all kinds of things with thumbnails. PicMonkey for me is something I've always loved using. I've used PicMonkey for years. Every single thumbnail that I've ever done on YouTube has been done in PicMonkey. Now, one way that choosing a service and sticking with that is very helpful is because once you design a thumbnail or any other graphic in PicMonkey in this case, then obviously that image is saved. On your next video, you can go back to it. You can change the images you need to. You can tweak titles, things like that. But your template design is there. Very few changes, and it makes it easy for you to do that. Now, my number 2 tip for creating better thumbnails is making sure you're doing them in high definition. Now, YouTube's sizing of thumbnails is going to be 1280 by 720, which is your standard high definition. That's the low end high definition. That size is going to fit into the 16:9 aspect ratio, which is going to fit across all devices. It's going to fit on phones, tablets, iPads, Chromebooks, laptops, TVs, whatever. That is the standard aspect ratio. Now, me personally, I do mine in 1080. It doesn't make that much of a difference when you actually look at it on screen. You're not going to get that much more detail out of it. But the reason that I do that is because it's easier for me to have that size. I can share that thumbnail across multiple platforms, whether you're talking about Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. That makes it easier for me just to keep recycling the same images. But as long as you're doing the 1280 by 720, you're going to be fine. Make sure they are high definition thumbnails. When you actually look at analytics, and if you use tools like TubeBuddy or vidIQ, you're going to be able to see quickly, it'll tell you that your thumbnail is not high resolution. So those kind of services are helpful also. They kind of give you some best practices, and one of those being the high definition thumbnails. Now, my third tip for creating better thumbnails is do not use screenshots. Actually take your own pictures. You can take pictures with your phone, with your camera, anything you want to, but take your own pictures. You're going to be able to manipulate those easier and make them look better into thumbnails. So really what this comes down to is the fact that if you take your own pictures, then you can manipulate those. Again, in my case, it's PicMonkey that I like to use. You can take separate images. You can manipulate those easier throughout your thumbnail, move them around, resize them differently. If you take a screenshot from your video, then you're pretty much kind of stuck with what that screenshot looks like. And if you're like me, as you're going through the video, I'm not really thinking about making sure that I get a perfect shot for a thumbnail. So it's easier for me, and I think it's a best practice to take your pictures on your own. Don't use a screenshot. That way you can put those pictures together in more ways, really any way that you want to, and your thumbnail is going to end up looking better. Now, this really comes into play because for me, a good thumbnail, you want to have, I think, a picture of yourself in there. A lot of times, you know, making some kind of a crazy face or looking at a product, you want to show some sort of a reaction in your face to what you're talking about. So you can take that separately and then you can place that around. If you're doing product reviews or talking about a tech product or whatever, it's also good to have that product in the shot. So you want to take a picture of products. Doing it this way now, you can take these pictures across a white background. You can use different photo tools to help you do this, but then you can actually remove the backgrounds from the pictures that you take, which is going to make it easier. You can add drop shadow. You can do all kinds of things to make that look better, to make your thumbnail stand out. So once again, just to close this video out, thumbnails are so important. You want to make sure that you are getting the best thumbnail that you can do. Spend some time on developing your thumbnails. Think about what you want your thumbnails to look like. Kind of put yourself in the mind of the viewer. Imagine if you were looking for a video that looks like what you're trying to put out. Just kind of picture what you would look at as a good thumbnail. You want to put yourself in your viewer's spot so that you will kind of get an idea for what they want to see. You want them to click that thumbnail. You want them to click your video. Again, the thumbnail is the very first thing that somebody's going to see when they come across your video. You want that first impression to be the best impression it can be. So hopefully this video helps. If you have any comments, any questions at all, make sure you throw them down in the comments. I will come through and answer those. There are plenty more tips. Again, this was just 3 that I have. There are plenty more tips. This could be an hour-long video talking about thumbnails, but those are my top 3 tips. If you guys have any comments, any tips at all of your own, make sure you throw them down there, because one thing that I really believe is that as a community, we can share our ideas, put all of our tips together. We can have a list of hundreds of different tips for making thumbnails. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you guys find any value in this, guys, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up on the way out. That is always going to help the channel. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Ring the bell so that you will know when new videos come out. And I appreciate you being here. So guys, go out and kill it. Go make some great content. Go make some great thumbnails. And we'll see you next time.